Hello and welcome to the TechBytes audiocast. My name's Tim and I'm from the TechBytes blogazine, and with me is Dr. Roy Shestowitz from the TechBytes website.
It's Friday night and I'm gonna get sauce. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. He tried to boss me and was outbossed. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. Underneath his creeper bridge, hoping goats will cross. Quoting Ashcroft and Tom Ridge, I fought the troll and the...
Hello and thanks for downloading episode 27 of the TechBytes audiocast. All three of us, myself, Roy and Gordon, are here today, so we'll crack straight on with the show. And today we're going to be starting with Roy, who is going to introduce the first subject. Roy, it's over to you.
Yeah, we had quite a few new releases of all kinds of software. We haven't had any distros released recently except for Pardus, which I believe one of you used before. Is this true, or?
Yeah, I covered it on OpenBytes. Must be about a year ago. Without looking back, I wouldn't know off the top of my head. But yes, from memory, yeah, I was very impressed with it. So
version 2011 was recently released. I was very happy about it because I've been asking people recently about distribution. It was extremely well covered in 2008, 2009. I'm not sure what happened in 2010, but this is a kind of a nationally important distribution, at least in Turkey. So now I see a new release based on, I think it's based on Gentoo in some way. I used to think it was based on Mandriva. It uses KDE. It's a really nice distro, and even people outside of Turkey tend to at least try it. I think it has a branding issue in the sense that people don't really think of it as a very user-friendly or well-known distribution. So I think it's worth trying if anybody is listening and he wants, he or she wants to try a KDE-based distribution. Pardus might be the right distribution to try. There are all kinds of releases, things like Pardus and all, Firefox 4 is coming very soon, and there is also some software related to Red Hat, which is out very soon. But what I actually found the most of recently was lots of things to do with patents, notably the WebM debates, the things about codecs and Google, and what Google might be trying to do in YouTube and in Chrome and things like that. And of course, last night we had the major news, which is Larry Page becoming the CEO of Google. Just a matter of days, maybe 2 days after Steve Jobs was stepping down. I think about 3 days since then. So then you have some of the biggest companies in software, those which compete very closely when it comes to phones, but basically both of them change leadership, changing faces, things like that. So that's quite interesting.
well, sorry, Gordon, we're leaving you out there. Is there? I don't know if you've tried Pardus. I've been busy trying to sort of track down my old article on Pardus, and I can't find it at the moment. I believe it was 2009. I gave it a go for the site, and I was certainly very impressed with it. Have you ever looked at Pardus, Gordon?
Pardus is one that looks interesting from the point of view that when I first heard about it, it was completely unique and it wasn't based on anything. It's getting good reviews and good comments by different people, and apparently it's in English and Turkish and essentially no other language, which that isn't a problem. I mean, I was curious about trying it. I never got around to it though, just in live mode. I don't think I would ever install it. That's even without trying it, and it doesn't matter how good it is. I don't think I would ever install it. For the same reason as I wouldn't install Red Flag Linux either. And any distribution, well, from my perspective, maybe it's this tinfoil hat thing, I don't know, but any distribution that's created by a government or connected very, very notably to a government, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it if it was the UK government or the US government, especially not the US government. Chinese or Turkish, it doesn't matter. So that attachment for me would always be a barrier for me to ever actually install it. But that aside, assuming you don't have a problem with that, Pardus is getting good reviews. So I've not tried it. I probably should, at least in live mode.
When it comes to this distro, one of the things that I've heard in terms of complaints since around 2008 was that by default you have to use root for just about every single thing, which means that the ordinary users would have to not have the barriers of having to separate between an admin user or admin, should we say, privileges, and just a normal user. Now, the complaint which came from that was that a person is going to be very, very exposed in the system, and any person who's going to be using the system is going to have full control of the system. So since you kind of mentioned the fact that, backdoors are proven to exist in certain national distros. I know in China, for example, they at some stage talked about imposing a use of a distribution, developed by the government to also contain by default, and I think very strictly, to always contain a backdoor for them to check what people were surfing on the internet cafe. And that was for at least the server side, I think also the desktop side. So it was very kind of blatant. You didn't really have to guess too much or to speculate. I think it was pretty much out in the open. But then it's China, so they just assume this happens, and it's no big deal. It happens in the UK too, I can tell you, because I have a friend who would go between all kinds of internet cafes in London, and he would look at the processes, and he knows to recognize them. He took some screenshots I published in my personal site at the time, and it actually shows you they do the same type of thing. They actually track people when they use a public cluster, things like that. So.
Yeah, I was just going to add. Yeah, I heard about the imposed distribution in the internet cafes in China. I didn't read much more about that though. I don't know whether that was just me missing the articles or whether it just all went a bit quiet. Do we know what the current state is over in China now in internet cafes? Is there an imposed?
This was about a year ago. I haven't heard anything since then. Sometimes I assume perhaps Microsoft convinced them to change something. Sometimes perhaps it just becomes old news. Nobody really talks about it after a while. I don't really get the impression that Microsoft could derail the use of Linux in China. And just a few days ago, I read about how China is like one of the leading nations for Linux usage in general. And I've been reading about this for quite a few years. I think, from what I can see, quite a few people use that, and quite a few people buy a new computer, and what's installed by default is Linux, and those who can illegally download and install Windows on it will probably use Windows, and those who don't do that will just stay with whatever came on it, and very often that's going to be red flag Linux, which I think they put some more effort into as of late, but it's really hard to tell. It's what they say about the news in China in general, it's really hard to know what's going on inside. In terms of reporting, it's very restricted. In this case, I think it's kind of a good thing when we try to assess the impact of Linux, because even if Linux is having very good penetration in the country, I think we're not supposed to be very well aware of the scale of use.
I think there's a difference though. It might be subtle, but there is a difference with Pardus in Turkey and like Red Flag in China. And that, as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, Red Flag is a government distribution that's essentially been forced on the internet cafes. But Pardus is a project that's done by universities.
It's being used
government funded universities. They are government funded institutions, but they are sort of semi-independent. So whether they've got any backdoors in them or not, I don't know.
I very much doubt
whether the government. Yeah, whether the government can impose that or not, I don't know. Probably not. But it's always that thing. Anything that's officially connected to any government, especially one with the desire to clamp down on certain political situations,